You're fired.
Why am I fired? Oh, I think I unplugged it on accident.
You unplugged it to plug Jack's stinking skeleton in?
I meant to unplug the lava lamp.
I already unplugged the lava lamp. The tree's plugged in.
Back here?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you plug the tree?
This is going good. Ha-ha! Our logo is more important than Jack Skellington.
I thought I could have both. The tree.
If I get some of my cables out, we can probably have both. I got no beef with Jack Skellington, but for our stream, the logo must be on.
That is true.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
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 We did a thing.
Listen.
I didn't think it was going to be as bad as this is probably going to be.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
You ready to start recording?
I've been ready.
Okay.
I got more notes than I had for the last 3 movies.
Oh god.
I have 75 notes.
I also just don't have like a lot of defense for this movie other than it's cute and I like it. So it's not like I can really like
All right,
I was like, I
right.
heard you about to start a tangent.
All right. No.
Okay.
Listen, I have caveats, okay?
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Now listen, I know that animation was just really raring to go in the early and mid 90s. We were really ramping up towards some really cool stuff that we could do.
We were already doing cool stuff. Disney existed.
Right. But this is not Disney, even though you
No.
can see it on Disney because Disney purchased Fox in recent history.
And a lot of people like think this is a Disney movie. Like it got confused for a lot. Well, I didn't even know for most of my life that it was not.
Anastasia is one of the most poorly animated movies that I've seen in a minute.
We watched Anastasia. That's James. I'm America. This is CityWavesCinema.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's like strictly bad because it was animated in a certain way. And right out the gate, there is a caveat that we get to give to Fox's animation division. Because Fox made the movie, 20th Century Fox, and this was the very first animated picture that they put out. First one they ever made. So, they get a pass on almost all of the animation fuckery that is in this movie. And there is not a small amount of animation fuckery in this movie. So, this is a movie about the Russian family, the Romanovs. But you might be forgiven for not understanding that right out the gate because Anastasia sounds an awful lot like Meg Ryan, which is appropriate because Anastasia is voiced by Meg Ryan. And in fact, if you watch the movie, you'll note that all the main characters, except for Vlad, all the main characters, Dmitri, Anastasia, the grandmother whose name escapes me, they all
You can just call her the Grand Duchess. It's fine.
have northeastern American accents. And it's not. I'm not even going to say that the performance is bad. Honestly, the voice acting is quite good.
And this is
in
a
the movie.
stacked cast.
It's a
Like,
stacked cast.
even
John Cusack,
Meg Ryan, Christopher Lloyd's
in there, and you know it's Christopher Lloyd because when he talks, it sounds like Christopher Lloyd.
Kelsey Grammer, Hank Azaria, and then like Kirsten Dunst plays young Anastasia. Like it's a good cast.
It's a totally fine cast. But the problem begins when there are side characters, and those side characters, they've got Russian accents. So the main characters are the Romanovs and company do not have Russian accents.
Technically just one Romanov. Uno.
Okay.
She's like the last one.
Right, but she wasn't for the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Fair enough. Carry on.
They all have normal American accents, and then the side characters get the Russian accents, and Kelsey Grammer as Vlad, who is technically a main character, he also has a thick Russian accent, and it's quite good.
Rasputin does an accent.
No. Have you ever watched a movie with Christopher Lloyd in it? Back to the Future? Any of that shit?
Yes.
Yeah, he just sounds like Christopher Lloyd.
Okay.
They got Christopher Lloyd in the studio, and he said, "What am I doing here, Marty?" And then it was just like, "Great, do that." And so then he did that, and that's what the whole movie is. Now, the first thing right off the bat was the English accents in Russia. The animation is older, so I like the way that they do the animation, even in that it's like hand drawn backgrounds. With 2D animation up in front of it.
It's really pretty
it's
until
nostalgic.
they start
it feels nostalgic.
moving.
Well, yeah, it's like anytime someone's face is on screen, you're just like, no, scary,
It does have like a Mandela catalog.
Their eyes move around on their heads a little bit too much. They're not in the same place ever. Sometimes Rasputin has his mouth open and he has all of the too many teeth. It's just little things like that where you look at it and you're like, I don't like that. But it's like the whole movie. There's that.
This is the first time I've seen it in a while, and the animation is rough, but it also, like, I don't think it affects me as much as you, because a lot of the movies, I was looking at the catalog of this director, who is Don Bluth. I was looking at the catalog of his directed, and they're all things from my childhood. Patrol in Central Park, All Dogs Go to Heaven, The Land Before Time.
And once again, in fairness to Fox Animation, they had not done this before. It's the first movie they'd ever put out as the animation department. And yeah, maybe they were veteran artists working on it, but listen, your first go is never going to be the best thing you make. It just simply isn't.
Also, like, you say that, but there's a history of Fox, and I can say this because I just recently watched this movie, like, this month. There's a history of Fox and people.
And just being bad?
They're not great, and I'm thinking of Ice Age in particular.
Yeah, but you also think about Ice Age and how fucking awesome all the animation in Ice Age is until they find that baby.
Well, even the baby's fine. It's really the adults when you look at their again, it's Mandela catalog, uncanny valley, like, ness that comes with it, where you're just like, ooh, that's not like what a human face looks like ever. And so it's not, you try to give them this pass, and I love this movie, but I also think about Fox's history of animation, and I don't think
they get a pass. They get a pass on this movie because it's the first one. Everything they fucked up from then on, that's on them.
They're really good at animals. Really good at animals.
Sure, there's a dog in this movie that looks like it came straight out of Lady and the Tramp. But that's about all it's got going for it.
I'm just thinking of, like, yeah, continue. Carry on.
So we're having this ball, I guess, and we do the setup with Anastasia and her grandmother, and, oh, you live in Paris, I'm so sad. Why don't you live here? Why? And then she gets the music box and the necklace that does the thing, and it says, always together in Paris. All wonderful little plot devices for later, and it's all very sweet and tender. And then Rasputin shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one problem I have with the story, and it's even more difficult because this is a poor retelling of what happened to the Romanovs in real life. Because Rasputin was dead before the Romanovs were killed.
Correct.
So, to start, we've thrown historical accuracy at the wall to see what sticks, and we're cherry-picking what we like out of it, which I'm not against. It's a fiction. It's a movie for kids. What happened to the Romanovs is fucked up and dark. So you can't really do that for the kids' movie.
Plus, that's stereotypical. I mean, we think about Pocahontas, Mulan, things that aren't even of Fox, but, like, any of these historical,
and sure, you gotta fudge it a little bit.
Huge huge air quotes around that. Like, all these historical movies, not one of them is actually really even, like, kind of close.
Right. So we get Rasputin rolling in, and the only backstory we get about what his deal is he was a magic man
Well, he was like
for the Romanovs,
like a priest.
and then they got mad at him, and so he went away, and then he came back, and now everyone has to die.
He sold his soul.
Right, but right. But wait. His whole arc is they got mad at me for a reason that is not stated.
They banished him.
He has to leave. Then he comes back, gets into this party somehow, having in recent history sold his soul to, quote, something dark and evil, in order to kill the Romanovs.
Place a curse on their family, yes.
So what the fuck did he do to make them that upset at him?
I mean...
In this movie, not in real life.
Oh.
Not in real life.
Oh.
Because we're not talking about real life. We've thrown historical accuracy out the window. So we have a new character, Rasputin, who did not kill the Romanovs in real life, who is here to enact a curse upon the Romanovs, and at no point is it stated why. He's just there to be bad.
They banished him.
Okay. Why? What did he do? What did he do to get in that much trouble with the Romanovs?
Things that happened before the movie started.
Okay, what are those things?
Are we still going in the, like, frame of the movie and not...
Frame of the movie.
I don't have an answer to that, but...
That's correct, because you know what they didn't do? Add context. No. You can't get away, even in a movie for kids, with having a bad guy who is just there to be a bad guy. Because it's lazy. What?
Why is Ursula the bad guy? What happened to Ursula?
She is canonically a scam artist. She's just Dimitri.
She got kicked out of the castle for reasons that we don't know.
Right, and then
she was banished from Atlantia.
Bad story writing. Disney's not immune.
I'm just saying
no studio's immune.
I'm just saying there is a lot of villains in... We'll just stick with animated history. In animated movie history that are just bad guys. Like, they're not always given these deep back stories, or it's something silly like...
Right, and that makes it shitty.
They were banished. I mean, one of the biggest villains in Disney history, Maleficent, was not invited to a party. And that was her whole motive.
Now, I did, just to tangent briefly about Maleficent.
Oh, just briefly.
It is briefly. I read something, it was, someone had made a note, I think I saw it on like a TikTok or something, it was like a Reddit post.
Is it the whole thing about like back in that day, not being invited was like a huge slight against her character and yada yada?
Specifically because of where her stance was with, it's like,
her
yeah,
status,
she wasn't supposed to ever show up, but because she didn't get invited, she was like, oh, well, fuck these guys, and went anyway. That's the idea. And I could be convinced that that's the way it was written if someone who wrote it was like, oh yeah, that's what we did. But until that happens, that's, once again, lazy, shitty writing. I don't... And people do it almost exclusively in kids' movies. Because if you look at other villains in other more adult medium stuff, a lot of them get given backstory, or at least a foundation for why they are the way they are. And it's just a shame that we don't do that more in kids' movies, because you should be able to contextualize evil. And if you only contextualize evil based on color palette or shape or whatever that you see in these movies, like Rasputin doesn't look like a human in the movie.
Well,
All the humans are in a certain frame of animation, and Vlad is giant, and Rasputin looks like even before he's dead.
Okay, I was like, most of the time he's decomposing.
Most of the time he's decomposing, true. But even before he's dead in the movie, he just sort of looks like a skeleton with just skin on it. And it's awful. Oh my god, he crop dusted us. I'm so upset.
He didn't even. He sat down and it just went.
Oh my god, our dog's trying to stink us to death.
I can tell that you're really passionate. No. You have everything you need.
Yeah,
I can tell you
get shit on.
I can tell you're really passionate about this one because I can barely get a word in edgewise with you ranting about Anastasia.
It's not even that it's just Anastasia. It's just, this is just an example of a problem in the trend of children's movies. You don't, think back to, okay, picture this. In Toy Story, who's the villain?
Sid.
Who's the other, yes. Who's the villain in Toy Story 2?
Al.
Never mind Sid, because he's a poorly written villain. He's just sort of a angsty teen, and teens do destructive things. Al's whole arc is he's a collector of fine toys because he's obsessed, and he has a basis and a baseline that is shown in the movie for why he does every single thing he does. That's a good example of an antagonist in a children's movie having a background that's understandable and contextualizable down to a child's intellect.
I'm gonna give you another one. Scar. Scar is fully fleshed out.
Yes, Scar is fully fleshed out. But guess what? Hamlet was written for adults by a raunchy fucking poet in England.
Ew.
So
shout out to Billy Shakes.
The baseline character of Scar was fleshed out long before Scar was ever imagined.
Okay, touche.
Scar is a bad guy for adults.
I will say we've gotten better about it, but I do think there was this wanting to like shield the children, like keep the innocence. So like the evil, there's just evil in the world, and like back in my day. No, back when I was a kid, like that was just there was just evil. There was good and evil, and that's all there was. But I think as millennials have grown older and as we start taking over into the industry, I start looking at things like, for example, Frozen, where you have a fully fleshed out villain who has full
oh my god, his motivation. And think about, I overtook you. Hans, he's the villain in Frozen, right?
Yes.
It's been a long time. Hans is one of, in recent history, in my knowledge, the most chilling villains in a Disney movie in maybe the last 15 years. It's sinister. He's a sinister person, and I attribute that almost entirely to having a fleshed out character and having his motivations shown.
And it's the whole shock factor too, because like when he goes up to Anna and he's like, "Oh, Anna, if only somebody loved you," and you're just like, "Oh."
Exactly.
Like it just it makes you uncomfortable. And I think we're starting to get, and this is a sign of the times too, where children aren't sheltered and there is just bad all around you, and you kind of just have to like learn how to deal with that. So I think there's more like if we prep them while they're young, it'll kind of help you cope when you're older. So we're going to show you that there could be a good guy that's really nice and really sweet, and turns out he'll
bite you in the end,
kill you and lock your sister in a prison.
All right.
But we're not talking about
let's do the notes.
Yes, let's go back to Anastasia.
I ranted about the animation a little.
You can keep ranting
first
about
off, why Rasputin got that many teeth? His whole entrance into the ball, his lips are peeled all the way back, his mouth is half of his face, and you can see all his fucking molars all the way up into the front. No other character has teeth that are that fucking visible. He's just out there with his heinous fucking grin.
Guess I didn't notice
and
any
then,
time.
This is the first thing I noticed when I looked at him, because he looks like mostly mouth, and this beard that reaches his cock.
You would do great as a Mandela catalog like agent, because you
I'd
could
be like,
pick out.
Listen, first of all this is fucked up. I don't understand why he, in the midst of his evil rant, had to destroy the chandelier. The chandelier didn't do anything to him.
Listen, chandeliers are a sign of power and prestige, so...
And they had 3 of them. He only knocked down 1. Fucking finish the job, dude. Anyway,
he's really bad at
he's,
that.
That's true.
Canonically bad.
Canonically bad at finishing the job. And swimming. He sold his soul. We still don't know why. He's not a real character. He's a fucking face of evil, quote unquote.
To be fair, this is back when like kids movies needed to be like 90 minutes or less. So
that's true, and it is 94 minutes. So we don't have a reason for him to be this angsty, but here we are, and he is. So we move forward. The people, he fucks off after being told fuck off. So he fucks off, and he comes back with a mob. Who also hate the Romanovs? It's unclear.
The Romanovs were not liked.
Okay, but in the framework of the movie, they're the only protagonists.
Yeah.
So you are inclined to believe that the Romanovs are well liked. So this random mob... Listen, you were just at this decadent party where hundreds of people are seen with your eyes, and they're dancing and having a great time. You don't know that in actuality, Russia's kind of in a bad way, and they're not very good leaders, all things considered.
It's very French Revolution.
Oh, it's very, because then they had the Russian Revolution.
Yeah, because their decadence, it's very much like let them eat cake, so.
In the grand context of history, it makes sense. Without the grand context of history, you just have this ugly motherfucker who gets told to fuck off, he fucks off, and then he got all these normal motherfuckers to rally behind him in his war cry to storm the palace and murder a bunch of people. Anastasia becomes a classic princess and doesn't know how to use her hands or her feet in the escape, and drops everything twice in her attempts to remember a single thing about being a princess. She's also only 8. We have to attribute her youth.
She's a child, and this is terrifying.
She's a child. It's scary. And then she lives because she went back for the music box, because they made a point of showing her drop the music box. And she lives because of it. And then Dmitri shoos them out the door, out the side door. They get away to a train, and the grandma has the grip of butter. And
she's old.
Yeah, but not really. Not really then. She's really old later. But, like, she could have hung on. This is like a life or death moment where you have to hang on. And she's only using one hand. She doesn't even reach down with her other hand to try. There's also other people who are, like, pressed up against Grandma on this train who do no things to assist this very clear situation that's occurring. Ridiculous.
Listen, Russia, it's tough times.
And then Anastasia gets let go, and she runs for another few steps and stumbles and goes to sleep. And then 10 years happen, in which time Anastasia has unexplained amnesia.
PTSD.
Right, not explained. Are there valid explanations? Sure. Are they offered? No. Yes, they had 94 minutes to do it. Could they have dropped a line about it? Maybe. If they felt like it. But they didn't, because they wrote this on cocaine.
They wrote this from a drunk history episode.
You're right. Because I saw the grandma and Anastasia get out of the palace, I just assumed multiples lived. Because, listen, you only see 3 characters who matter for the whole beginning. Because her dad also doesn't matter, because you know he's gonna die. But, like, you don't know anyone else in her family. You don't know anything about how anything went down. And you don't see any kill because it's a kid's movie. So it's just sort of like, I guess 2 people got out.
Again, history, A. And B, we are telling this conspiracy theory. This isn't like a historical story. This is a conspiracy theory that people had for like generations, that Anastasia just fucking made it.
Sure, this is literally a fairy tale about what if she made it out. Now, also, I'm still confused about why Rasputin was overthrowing the Romanovs, because in the context of the movie, the Romanovs seem fine. I don't see any problems with them. in the framework of the movie. So there's no like it's so mediocre to not include at least some explanation as to why he's doing this, why Rasputin's trying to curse them, and there just isn't any explanation. There's literally no explanation. It's just a shame. And then we have a song about how good gossip is at helping blue collar poor motherfuckers get through the day, which is so funny because it's so true. Also, Dimitri, that guy sounds an awful lot like John Cusack, which is fair because that guy is John Cusack. Once again, no accent. He's just talking to Vlad, who has an accent. Like, man, you gotta wonder if Vlad, in the context of this movie, ever looked at Dimitri and was like, dude, where the hell are you from? Like, how come we don't sound the same? Aren't we both from here?
I even think about it like as like a cast of voice actors when you have ones that are doing, because you have Bartok too, who does a Russian accent. Like,
yeah, but it's Hank Azaria, so it's like questionable.
It's like, did like any of the other actors? Because sometimes they would record together. Like, did anyone look at the other one and go, you know, we're in Russia, right? Like,
I don't know, dude. The directing, I've got questions. And yeah, it's a cult classic, but
I wouldn't even go that far.
No one, it didn't make its budget back.
Really? It's definitely hyped up.
It made its budget back over the course of, I think, a year.
It's definitely hyped up in popularity as Millennials of Age, because now you got the nostalgia button, and then they made a Broadway musical about it, So
Dimitri and Vlad have this excellent plan, because it's a very publicly known thing that the Empress of Russia, I think?
Grand Duchess?
They call her the Empress the whole time.
Well, I guess
Anastasia's the Grand Duchess.
I guess she would be, like, because of the deaths, like, in succession, she would technically be considered the Empress. I forget what the term is when, like, everybody dies and you're not really in charge.
She also doesn't rule Russia and lives in Paris. It's very confusing. The hierarchy of command and structure in this movie doesn't exist, and it's not supposed to, because you're not supposed to think about it, because this is a movie for children and not 28-year-old me.
There is a title when, like, a bunch of the royal family dies and you're married into the family, and you get temporary power until, like, order can be reestablished. And I don't remember what it's called, but that is a thing. So she would be, like, the Empress, that title.
Regent? I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, the Queen Regent. Yeah, so she'd be the Empress Regent, technically.
Regardless, Dimitri and Vlad keep singing about their excellent plan to audition someone to become the new princess so they can acquire the reward that the Empress has put out for news, alive or dead, of her granddaughter. And that's a dumb fucking thing to do, is to sing about your mildly evil plan out loud in front of everyone.
To be fair,
it's a bad decision. To
be fair, it was Russia, A. And B, seems like everyone was doing it. Like, the way the Empress talks about it when they show up is like,
She knew that this was occurring in St. Petersburg.
And yeah, and like, how many Anastasias has she seen? Like, she's like, I don't want to see anymore. Like, this is heartbreaking to her, but she's seen so many girls now that are like, could be.
At this point in the movie, I was just assuming that Anastasia hit her head when she went to sleep on the station platform.
Could have done that too.
So anyways, Anya, who is Anastasia, and I will refer to the character as both names for the rest of this podcast, she sounds an awful lot like younger Meg Ryan. And that's important because she is played by a younger Meg Ryan. And for the record, John Cusack and Meg Ryan do a goddamn good job voice acting these characters.
Even if they didn't let them sing the songs.
They didn't do accents, but that I don't think is on them. That is specifically on the director, and fuck you for that.
Sorry, Don Bloom.
So we don't have any explanation for the amnesia or the overthrowing of the Romanovs. And then we're introduced to Puka as Anastasia gets tossed out of the orphanage by Flemenkov, which is a very silly name. for a person because phlegm and cough go hand in hand. Um,
Some writer had a chuckle about that. Was like, I wonder if anyone will notice.
right. And so we're introduced to a dog, and the dog has an American mom named Karen's haircut, which is
I love Puka.
well, Puka would like to speak to the manager. Also, we're introduced to the dog, and then the next scene, she's just calling the dog Puka, and we have no context for when she came up with the name Puka or anything because she was singing a different song about something. I can't remember.
Her adventure to her past. It's her journey to her past. That's the song.
Great. The main characters are Americans. Everyone else is Russian. Fox can't animate for shit, and Dimitri can't shake hands for shit. Now, Dimitri does a handshake after Anastasia finds her way to the auditions where she had heard that a man called Dimitri was trying to...
she just heard that he could get her papers.
Yeah, he could get her papers.
She's just trying to get to Paris.
Right, she just wants to go to Paris. And Dimitri cons her into being down to do whatever to get to Paris. And so they shake hands, and he shakes hands like he's got a little limp wrist, like he just like he's got a dead fish hanging off the end of his hand. It's a bad handshake, and if you shake hands like that, you're fucking wrong. And
Anastasia shakes like a
shakes
strong,
like
independent woman.
Man, you really, really almost tripped yourself up on that one. Now, at this point in time, Bartok, our bat, who is briefly seen with Rasputin when he was alive. Oh, also, by the way, when Rasputin overthrew the Romanovs, he died drowning in ice. And it's unclear how he got pulled under the ice, but he did get pulled under the ice and is presumed dead. Now, Bartok has his little magic canister of green goo and is just sort of hanging out in the now deserted palace. And he sees Anastasia and just assumes that is Anastasia.
Well, he doesn't think it is. He's like, nah, that can't be. She died, blah, blah, blah. But then the talisman
knows that it is because it's about killing the Romanovs, I guess.
That's what the curse is held in. So it starts freaking out, and he goes, well, if that thing's freaking out, it must be Anastasia.
And then the bat gets dragged to hell.
Literally.
And then Rasputin's there on this little floaty island.
Basically
in
limbo.
Space.
Limbo.
Made of skulls and bones. And this is where Fox tries to super animate and do like animated shit with Rasputin because he's sort of falling apart. So they're having a little fun with like, oh, what if his mouth just fell into his beard? And Bartok put his mouth back where his mouth goes. Silly shit like that. And it's kind of entertaining, honestly. But it is difficult to focus on when every word that comes out of Rasputin's mouth sounds like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, because it's Christopher Lloyd doing a Christopher Lloyd version of Christopher Lloyd. So, bad directing.
You have a lot of complaints about this movie.
Yeah, because it's amateurish and bad.
Carry on.
Rasputin does a great villain song, and that great villain song is "In the Dark of the Night." Just because I really, really like it, you should listen to the cover of "In the Dark of the Night" by Jonathan Young. It's on his Villains album, in which he does a lot of covers of various songs.
Shiny's also on there. It's good.
Because it is so freaking good. It is unreal how amped up he makes that song. It's very good.
He makes a lot of them better. I think about Prince of Egypt too. That he does the one that the priest and the preacher and the Prince of Egypt do. I don't
Hanging with the Big Boys Now.
Yeah.
I think.
And it's better when he does it.
There are a lot of songs that I think he adds to rather than detracts from.
Well, I also don't like the song Shiny from Moana. I don't like the song Shiny from Moana. I hated that song. I don't like Tamatoa. I don't like Tamatoa. I really liked the Jonathan Young cover. It's on my Spotify.
So that aside, we'll go back to the movie. The gang of Vlad, Dmitri, and Anya are now bound for Paris. They get on a train, and they're mostly just arguing. And by arguing, I mean Dmitri and Anya are arguing, which is how you know they're gonna eat each other's faces off later in the movie.
They got sexual tension.
And no, it's not sexual. It's just tension. If they had sexual tension, it wouldn't be a kids' movie.
To be fair, Dimitri's annoying as fuck.
Dimitri's a little bitch, and I make note of that like 4 times in my notes.
And Anya's also kind of annoying as fuck.
Anya's the worst version of headstrong, specifically because she doesn't have context as to why she makes the decisions that she makes. She's just like, it's unwarranted confidence that she has.
It's internally because she's a princess.
Right, but she doesn't know that, so it's just being a dick. If you know that, then the context is different. The context around the way they all interact with each other is fucking rough. But there's a shot where Anya wins a verbal argument with Dmitri, and you get a shot over Vlad's shoulder as he marks down another hash mark in what I can only presume to be a counter of arguments won by either party, and Anya's won like 50 already. There's so many 5 hash mark sections.
Dmitri has 4.
Dimitri's got 4. It's a landslide victory.
Which makes me wonder, A, how long they've, because it seems like they just got on the train right away.
Yeah,
but
time is irrelevant.
But how long have they been hanging out where they have had enough arguments that Anya has won that many?
It's unclear. So now we've got the curse is coming to try and kill Anastasia, and they're on the train. It turns out they have the wrong colored papers because the government changes the papers all the time. Little jab at them being communist.
Papers, please.
And so the gang absconds back to the baggage cart.
Or up to the baggage cart.
Yeah, it is up. It is up because it's near the locomotive's engine.
They're like right behind the engine.
Yeah. So they get up there and it's cold, and then they get up there, and then the back half of the train behind them just disconnects. So they're in Russia in the winter in the mountains. So all those people are going to die.
Yeah, the demons really just like said, fuck those people.
The body count in this movie is astronomical for how nice of a little fairy tale it is. All those people in that train are going to die. But we're not worried about them right now because suddenly the train's speeding up because the demons did it. And also, no one works on any vehicle that the gang get on until a car in France. So
no, they aren't in France yet when they're in the car because they haven't gotten on the boat yet.
Is that? Oh, that is for real. Oh, you've got me there. I got my timeline mixed up. I don't remember exactly what happens before Anastasia goes, men are such babies. But that is true. Men are indeed such babies.
I don't know.
Dmitri gets butthurt over something.
Yeah. Or hurts himself or something.
Yeah, it does something, and she jabs at him, and it's true. And then Dmitri does the most man thing I can think of. In that they open up the door to get to the fucking engine car. What's the name of that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
The locomotive? No.
What's the fucking front? What is it? Ah, I don't fucking remember. Anyway, they're going too fast, and so Dmitri does the most man thing I can think of in that moment. And he decides that he is the train mechanic, and he will see what he can do about this. Which is so dumb. Oh my god. You're not, I mean, he's correct to do this in this instance. But dude, you are not the guy. You're a con man. You are not the guy who knows how to do train. You're not the train guy.
He's
You're
like,
not
I
the
can
conductor.
do it.
You're not the shoveling coal guy. You're not the conductor on the train. You're just a dude. And so he says, "I'll do it." And so he gets up over there, finds out no one's on the train, and it's just
And everything's on fire.
firing on all cylinders. So Puka is the only one who can see the annoying pest demons. As a note, no one else can, only Puka, because Puka's an animal and animals can see things.
Canonically true.
So then they sort of hatch a plan to save themselves,
Like-
i.e., jump.
And oh yeah, they do the jump plan first.
Well, they try to do the jump plan first.
Yeah, and then they have to disconnect.
And then they see up ahead that the tiny little demon pests just sort of acquire astronomical power
I think they merge into one.
and destroy a whole bridge in one swoop. And
Yeah.
so now the plan has to change, and they've got to disconnect the cars and figure out the brakes and all that shit. So they do all that. I'm also very uncomfortable with how powerful these little demon pests are, in that they can't kill her, but they can turn into a giant creature that destroys the bridge.
I don't think they can like do anything to directly harm her.
Right, but there's no stated rules about it, so I don't. That's dumb. That's dumb. It's very dumb. I don't like it, and I think it's dumb. They escape from the train, jump into the snow, set off on foot, and Rasputin just takes all his frustrations out on himself. He's really into self-harm.
He is.
He just straight up tries to kill himself. Just in a very cartoonish way. He just commits so much self-harm all at once.
It's not the time to lose your head.
Bartok's like trying to talk him off the edge, and it's just Hank Azaria the whole time, and you're just like, man, this sounds an awful lot like The Simpsons. So Bartok is the only good character. And then we embark on our transitional phase of the movie, where we take an unknowable amount of time to cross a majority of Europe.
And train Anya how to be a duchess.
Right. And also in this portion of the movie, I have to say I take it back, and Vlad is also a good character. Because Vlad is just sort of the glue that holds the group together.
And he's a sweet little.
And he is a very sweet old guy.
Yeah.
He's a sweet dude.
Who's in love.
He is in love. Now, this is maybe one of the earliest movies that I've seen where we have a teaching a princess how to become a princess montage. So I can't say for certain, but they may have set the trend that you then see in things like The Princess Diaries, or little points here and there in movies like Brave, where Merida needs to be sort of stately but isn't, and she gets jabbed at by her mom.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, there's not really a time I can pinpoint where that became a thing, but having seen this movie that came out in 1997, I think it might start here. Because I can't think of another movie that's older where they do a teach this person how to be a stately princess montage. So I'm not saying for sure that it was the first time, but it is a time early on in the trend, and it's always exactly the goddamn same. Now, in this montage where they're traveling around and learning how to become princess, they steal so many modes of transportation. And I can only assume they steal because at no point do they show that they have money, and at no point do they show a transaction taking place where they buy or rent any of the modes of transportation that they use, which are they're not exclusively, but here they fuck me. I tripped my whole self over on that one. Here's what they do: they steal horses, they steal bicycles, they do not steal a car because there's a driver in that car. And I can only assume that they tricked their way onto the ship because there is not another soul on board this ship. It's a ghost ship. There's not a crew. There's never shown a crew. And they go above deck, below deck, all over the place on this ship, and never once do you see a crew member. And that's probably for saving costs in animation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, hey, it's your first movie. They didn't put a lot of budget into it. I get it. But also, you know how fucking dumb it looks to have a ship in an emergency situation in the ocean trying to maintain itself and you don't see a single crew member? That's dumb. That looks silly. That's a noticeable faux pas. I also, beautiful moment of brevity is I had made a note that I didn't write down, but I mentally thought of this while they were in the montage, that she just kept on wearing the same tattered dress that she had when she fucking left the orphanage. Like, she's just been in the same clothes the whole time. And then they get to the ship, and I said out loud to America, I was like, man, they went the whole way to Poland, got halfway across Europe, and they still didn't get her any new clothes. And immediately after I finished that sentence, Dimitri pops out this new dress for her.
And he's like, I bought you this dress.
I said, motherfucker! So dumb. But it's wild to me that they didn't, like, if they were stealing all these modes of transportation, shit, man, just steal a dress or something, steal some clothes. We've seen it happen enough times. Shit, Aladdin practically did it a dozen times. Dimitri also such a little bitch all the time, just so petty about everything. He's like a classic know-it-all protagonist, but without charm or likable qualities. So he's just annoying.
It's like he tried to. It was like Flynn Rider, but like really, really badly done. Like, he's trying to do like the whole con man Aladdin Flynn thing, but like he doesn't have any of the charming aspects to go along with it.
He's an archetypal character that is not executed well. But I don't blame John Cusack for that, because when John Cusack does his tender moments with the character, it's really good. John Cusack does a good job.
If only the animations could show facial expressions.
I don't want to talk about that. It's going to make me upset again. But it's literally like the direction and the story just do not lend favor at all to the characters that they're trying to work with. It's just a shame. And I really, once again, I just don't really have very many issues with the voice acting in the movie. Mm-hmm. I think everyone, like, no one phoned in their performance, I'll say. But for sure, not any of the main cast even trying a Russian accent is shambolic. It's just it's a Russian story. All the side characters have Russian accents, except for when they're in France and they have French accents. But they have French accents. Like, Meg Ryan and John Cusack and Christopher Lloyd are terrific, terrific talents. You don't think they could do it? Maybe they tried and it wasn't good and they had to start over.
Ooh, that could be.
I mean, maybe they're all three of them bad, but I find the likelihood that they're all three of them bad not high. It takes away from it for me. I'm sure it doesn't take away from the story for a child. You didn't give a fuck. I gave a fuck. But I'm me, and it's my job to give a fuck. So That's halfway. We'll finish the horrendous end of this movie next episode. Fine.
Can you do a tippy typing? Do it. There it goes. Okay. Anastasia, Anastasia, episode 1. Or part 1. Oh yeah, we only do episodes for the other one. The ones that have freaking
Multiple movies.
multiple parts. Cool.
When we do 50 Shades 2 in another 100 episodes, it'll be 50 Shades episode.
Well, no, because it's 50 Shades Darker. So you can just do 50 Shades Darker, part 1, part 2. That episode...
Oh, fuck, that has to go out tonight.
You already put 50 Shades out.
Did I put it out?
You should have.
Find out.
It should be 50 Shades, and you should have put out the first episode of Neverending Story. Or did you mess everything up by not putting 50 Shades out when it was supposed to go out?
Oh yeah, Neverending Story part 1's out.
And did you put 50 Shades? Okay. Yeah, the 50 Shades episode is out. If you want to share it with your friends.
If you want to fucking see that monstrosity, holy
or listen
shit.
to it again. We're gonna do our vote. I'm gonna knock out James's knee first, though. That's important. If you are here, you get to vote on which movie we watch next. You know who's noticeably absent?
Yeah, he's not here. It's weird.
So he doesn't even get to vote. I'm sorry about your knee. That's payback for when you hurt mine the other day. Alright, your options are the new Mary Poppins. The one with Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yes, I've seen it. Mamma Mia 2. Flushed Away. And James and the Giant Peach. A returner to the vote, but has never actually... I also don't have enough letters to type that all out, so it's just going to be James and the Peach. Oh wait, maybe I do on here. I didn't on Twitch. Giant. Hey! Okay, James and the Giant Peach, the new Mary Poppins, Mamma Mia 2, Flushed Away. We will be right back in 5 minutes to see what you've done. Y'all really gonna tie right now? Do you know how difficult ties are for us? James is just happy about one of the selections.
It just means you suffer.
Ugh. How many? Only 2 people voted. I really wish Green Gorilla was here to break this vote. But he's not. So we will rock it. Alright.
Wait, you want to do what? What did you say? I was reading something.
Me?
Yeah.
I was just saying I really wish Green Gorilla was here to break the vote, but he's not, so we'll rock with it.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I was in another world.
Alright, so we will go in order of the list that I have written out. I do have a written list of the movies that we're going to watch. So we will watch Flushed Away next time, and James and the Giant Peach after that, which means you all probably won't get to vote on a movie till after Christmas.
And there's no Christmas movies this season.
No.
Because, frankly, we've probably seen them all.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, Edward Scissorhands is a Christmas movie.
I don't believe that.
And is there another one on here that's a Christmas?
I don't think there's a single Christmas movie on there. Have you seen Holiday Inn?
I probably have. I can't think of, unless it's one of the new ones, like the ones on Disney Plus. I can't think of a Christmas movie I haven't seen. Although I did watch that. We watched that React video, and there were a bunch on there that I'd never seen. So we could watch the claymation.
Oh.
I could make you watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town since you've never seen it.
Oh. Nope, no thank you. Oh, Jesus.
Jesus is not in that movie. Alright, you ready? Figure out where you are. Gain yourself. Focus in. Anastasia, part 2. Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Nightmare. Now.
Welcome back to Anastasia on CityWavesCinema. That was James. I'm America. We don't know how to do intros.
No, that's not true. We do know how to do intros. We just choose not to. Because this is more fun.
This is a choice you're making?
Yes.
Oh.
Dude, I've been doing the same thing for like a year and a half. What do you mean?
For over 100 episodes.
You didn't track that I say fuck intros every fucking episode?
I try so hard to be like a good podcaster and do a fucking intro. And
everyone intros their shows all the same. It's more fun if you just come in guns a-blazing. It's crazy. It's wild. It's entertainment.
Anyways,
welcome to the nightmare sequence of the movie, in which Puka is a classic plot device pet, and demons are, in fact, canonically butterflies. So...
I know what you're talking about, but that sentence out of context is so bizarre.
Isn't it, though? So we're on the ship in which they are sailing around Denmark, I think? They're sailing from Poland up and around.
Well, no, they're sailing
France.
from Germany because they walked through Poland
they walked
to
through
Germany.
Poland.
Let me see a map.
Look at a map. Anyways, they're on the ship, and no one works on the ship, by the way. And they, oh my god, my eye. They all bed down for the night. Vlad's a little seasick, and Dmitri is sort of passed the fuck out on the ground next to some bags. And everyone goes to sleep, and Anastasia starts dreaming, and then the demons appear.
My best guess is they're leaving from, like, Belgium?
Well, hang on. No, okay, hold on, look. Because it looks like they leave from here
Oh, so
and
they
go
leave
up
from...
around Denmark and come down into
Okay.
Paris, because the storm happens when they're in the North Sea, because they show it and it's like, oh, there's the UK.
Okay.
Sorry, we had to look at a map real quick to figure out what the fuck was going on.
Geography's not our strong suit.
It is my strong suit. It just looks like they got rid of most of Denmark.
Be better then.
I literally said exactly what happened.
Nah.
Right, Donald Trump. Now, the nightmare sequence occurs because these pesky little demon creatures have the ability to just appear anywhere at will. So they show up on the ship after having previously not been on the ship when we learned how to waltz earlier in the movie.
Of the spiritual realm, and they are specifically designed to target the Romanov family, so like heat-seeking missiles, but demons.
Sorry, I passed away in the middle of that. So they show up and they just sort of like swirl around Anastasia as she's asleep. And then she sort of vividly dreams herself into this world where she's just frolicking. That's literally all she does is frolic.
She follows the butterflies and a boy.
And the swirly demons take the form of butterflies, and she follows this little kid, and they're just going around all these places. And we intercut back and forth between the ship to this imaginary world. And on the ship, Anastasia has gotten out of bed and is sleepwalking, kind of like a zombie, a la arms out in front of her.
To really, really sell you on the fact that she is sleepwalking.
Yeah, like, we couldn't guess that. Anyways, she's wandering about the ship, and the ship is, surprise, surprise, in the middle of a giant storm. The door shuts to her room, and Puka is still inside the room, freaking out. So Puka has to wake up Dimitri. Dimitri sees that Anastasia's not in the bed, so he scurries up into the top side of the ship where no one is in the middle of this giant storm, except Anastasia, who is like standing on the rail of the ship, just like
very Titanic,
very precariously floating about. I'm doing an image for the stream that no one on the podcast can see.
It's not that good of an interpretation. You're not missing that much.
My eyes were closed. I couldn't see what I was doing. So he rescues her.
Sorry.
Saves her from her peril, and wakes her up, and she freaks out. But the demons were too impatient, and right as he is about to save her, they stop becoming this friendly little scene and start turning into demons dragging her to hell. Which, if you take but a moment to stop and think about, why would she go to hell unless the Romanovs were bad?
It's the Romanov curse.
Right, but we don't know anything. So she is saved.
I mean, she says it's the Romanov curse.
Well, yeah, but she doesn't know about the Romanov curse. She just believes that she is cursed.
That is true. She has no
The Romanovs
context.
never find out that they've been cursed.
Yeah. And she only finds out because Rasputin's image in the dream says it a good 15 times.
My note for that sequence is that sleepwalking is bad for the health of princesses who grow a foot of hair out of nowhere.
Yeah, she also gets a lot of hair. She has this like little tiny like
there's not a lot of consistency to the way she looks.
Ponytail, and then she changes a dress and it gives her magic hair.
And now with this new failure at killing Anastasia, Rasputin decides that he will take it upon himself to kill her.
Instead of sending the demons.
In which I am totally flabbergasted as to how this guy knows he can get out of limbo and go back to the real world, and yet let these little demon guys try twice and fail twice instead of just going and doing it himself. If he was really that full of rage, as he intimates that he is, he should have gone and done it the first fucking time.
Well, maybe he was like, without trying to put more risk to himself, like, because his body is falling apart, and if you hit him good one time, he's just gonna disintegrate. So maybe he was trying to, like, save himself the trouble, almost?
Maybe,
or risk?
but he's already dead, and he sold his soul, and the best he could do was be in limbo for eternity. So I still don't understand what his end game was in cursing the Romanovs and killing them. There is no plan. He has no arc. He's not a good villain. There's no end game. Go back to Frozen. The end game for Hans is to overtake the kingdom.
Yes.
And he says it.
Yes.
And it's clear.
Uh-huh.
And it's sinister. And it's scary.
Yes.
Rasputin has no plan besides kill him, I don't like him. Maybe there's some grand scheme, but he never says it. And it's never implied. And the only thing we know...
That's fair. He doesn't really have a good motive.
There's no motive. Yeah, he got banished for an unexplained reason.
He has a revenge arc, I guess.
Yeah, he has a revenge arc, but there's no end win for him. If they all die, especially now that he's in limbo, it's not like he gets to come back to life and be free of the Romanovs and live happy.
Yeah.
He's just bitter and full of rage. And maybe it's founded in something, but they don't say it. So is it? We don't know. And it sucks. It sucks that there's not more gravity to the situation. Because you watch it and there's no tension, ever. There's not an ounce of tension in this movie. For me, anyways. As a child, I'm sure there's plenty of tension.
I mean, it's kind of terrifying when you're a child, like, on many levels.
Sure, because the whole arc is death, and death is scary. But there's no tension in the movie because there's no context to this hatred. There's just, I got banished and now I'm back to kill bitches. Like, okay, that seems extra, dude. Like, get it together, man. Maybe you got banished because you look freaky and you don't look like everybody else, and that's scary, and they're afraid of you, and that's a little racist, but maybe that's how it is. Fuck, I don't know, man. Like, it's so open-ended that you can almost insert your own narrative into it and get away with it. But there's no arc for Rasputin, and that sucks. Because he has one of the greatest villain songs in any musical.
And he's a really scary looking villain.
And he's a horrible looking, did so good with the art on it. And it's just ass. His whole arc is just a fart in the wind. It's just a shame. So he escapes limbo by blasting off like Team Rocket into the fucking stratosphere of limbo to get back to Earth, I guess.
Your jokes have been really solid this
Dude,
episode.
I'm on one right now.
Or this movie, I guess not this episode.
And so now we have a section of the movie where they get to Paris. The trio gets to Paris and they find Sophie, who is the old flame of Vlad's, and we also have a brief snippet where the Empress sees another Anastasia imposter who looks a lot like Anastasia, but she knows in her heart that it's not her, and says, "Fuck this! I don't want to fucking see any more people. I don't want this anymore. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm heartbroken. I'm done." And that's totally valid and fair.
That's gonna be
maybe one of the most compelling things in the movie is that she's just so tired of seeing the same shit for 10 years and getting hopes up and having them crumble again and again and again, and they don't spend any time on it. It's such a compelling tidbit of storytelling, and they just are like, "Oh, here it is a little bit." Anyways, Sophie has a grand house that they all just sort of hang out in, and they prove to Sophie that Anastasia is Anastasia. But also outside, in the way they show the passage of time in France in, 1926?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because it's 10 years later. Well, we could even say maybe 1927 because we don't know how long they traveled. Somewhere in 1926, 27, in a time where we for sure have clocks. There's a fucking sundial in the front yard, and children born no later than 2000 have no fucking clue what a sundial is. Because why the fuck would they need to know that information? I shouldn't even need to know that information, but I know it because I learned it in history.
Have you never seen a sundial in real life then?
I've seen them inside where they don't provide their service in like museums.
Because like my gardens, like my grandparents' gardens and my great grandparents' gardens when I was a kid had sundials.
Huh. Mine never did.
Huh.
Never have I seen a sundial in real life fulfilling its purpose. I've seen them in museums. I think I've seen a few in DC, in the museums up there, but I've never seen one doing what it's supposed to do in the wild.
Fascinating. Because I've seen like several, like in like outside at parks, like botanical gardens, like all over the place. Like I've
wild.
seen...
If you see one while we're going out places, you should point it out to me, and I'll be like, "Wow!" I'll take a picture. I'll put it on Instagram.
He'll put it on the CityWavesCinema Instagram.
I'll just take a picture like, "I found one!" Ah!
Sundial!
This is also a scene where we once again see Puka never get to go anywhere as the door to the manor gets shut in his face.
He also tears up the flower garden, pacing back and forth, waiting for because he can see inside the window. And that's another good sign of passage of time, because he like hops in there and the flowers are all like really poofy and like beautiful.
And then he just tramples the shit out of them.
And then he's been pacing back and forth so long, now there's just a trough in between all the flowers.
Now, we get to a bit of animation that I made a comment out loud about, and maybe it's a little crass, but for the most part in the movie, everyone's been animated to be this sort of lithe figure. Anastasia's kind of a waif of a girl, and Dimitri's he's just a guy. He's just sort of a thin guy.
And
Rasputin is basically a skeleton, and Vlad is a rotund man. Vlad, for the majority of the movie, is the only character that looks like he belongs in an animated movie. Everyone else sort of looks like a scary monster. And then we get to see Sophie get all gussied up to go out. And they didn't do this when they introduced Sophie, but they did this after she got changed to go out shopping in Paris, where they animated a direct cleavage line outside her dress. And it's just... She's a big character too, animated in the same way Vlad is. It's all tits.
She's easily got G's, if not bigger.
Enormous bondahunkaroos. Just anime tits. And they're huge. And they took time to ensure that they drew in extra lines that don't exist on other characters, that don't exist on other female characters, that don't exist anywhere else in the movie.
Listen, these 90s animators knew what they wanted to pay attention to.
They knew what they liked, and it was tits.
It wasn't faces.
You know, it wasn't eyes, it wasn't mouths, it wasn't noses, because Dimitri's is 10 shades of fucked up. It's tits. They wanted tits, and they worked hard to give one side character the rack of a lifetime. And it was enough that I made a comment about it out loud, and I wrote a note about it in here. And then the movie takes a quick shift to be horny as fuck.
Yeah, it's weird.
For like one scene, everyone's hot for everyone. And then it's over. And they go shopping, and the name drops Chanel. And then they go to the burlesque at Moulin Rouge for some reason.
They like go to what's canonically the sketchiest district, because that's where the Moulin Rouge is.
Moulin Rouge is in the bad part of Paris. And they go in fancy garb to the Moulin Rouge.
And stay for a whole show. And the thing is, like...
And accidentally interrupted a little bit.
The thing is, like, as a kid, wouldn't have even, like, fucking been on my radar, and I'd even probably watched the fucking movie at that point by now, because I don't know when that movie came out. But as an adult going,
oh, I've seen Moulin Rouge. I know where that is. Oh no.
I was like, I know a lot about what the Moulin Rouge was now.
Boy, they did a lot of chlamydia in there.
Questions?
Yep. So then we're gonna double down on the trope to make Dimitri every animated male protagonist ever. And he goes from not having feelings to having all of them at the same time. And so he's going to revert his whole character from, I don't want the money that I came here for. I don't want to stay in Paris. I want to get Anastasia to her grandmother, convince her that it's real, and then that's my whole deal now.
I mean, but that he had that whole change because you kind of skipped over it. He had that whole change because when Anastasia's trying to convince Sophie that she's Anastasia, because remember, 50% of this is a con and 50% of it is she could be Anastasia, and that's kind of how the whole trio operates for most of the movie. She mentions to Sophie, because Sophie's like, how'd you escape? And she's like,
she has a fleeting memory of this little boy who helped her through the wall.
Yeah, she's like, a boy opened a wall, and she's like, that's
Dimitri,
silly.
Dimitri, who doesn't have amnesia, remembers doing that. And so he goes, oh, son of a bitch, it's her. Because who the fuck else is going to remember that besides the Empress and her and him? They're the only three people who was there. So they're the only three people who could know this fact. And so he recognizes this, has a complete flip of character arc, and I did skip a little bit in that he then, after the burlesque, tells Vlad that she's telling the truth. He helped her escape, and it's the first time Vlad's heard it, and I wrote in all caps on my phone, yo, he never told Vlad he helped the Duchess escape. And that's crazy.
Vlad's like his best friend. Like, how the fuck do you not tell somebody that? They traveled
across the world together, and they had this plan for a long time, and you never told him one of the penultimate moments of your young life was helping her escape? That's crazy.
And, like, could very help your con. Like, there's nothing you gain from hiding that information other than, like...
Also, how does that just slip your mind? I know you were a kid and you got hit in the face with a rifle as soon as that happened, but, like, you gotta know.
No, he knows because he remembers. The only reason I could think about, like, keeping it a secret is, again, it would be out of context stuff of, like, because the Romanovs were overturned, if you started talking about it in the streets that you kind of helped people escape that
you might get disappeared.
Yeah. That's the only thing I could, like, but then you would still tell Vlad, because Vlad was undercover as part of the,
cabinet, wasn't he?
Cabinet, yeah.
Yeah, like they were both
or
in
the court. He was in the court.
They were both in the palace when shit went down, and neither one knew it about the other, I guess, is what we're saying.
Well, Vlad told them because he talks about it.
Right, Vlad, okay, yeah, I guess that's true.
It's just Dimitri.
It's just Dimitri who doesn't share, which is, like, dumb, I guess. It's fucking lame. His character sucks. Then they go to the ballet, where they're going to try to meet the Empress, even though she doesn't want to meet anybody. And they watch a ballet of Cinderella, which is, like, straight obvious from the jump. And they do a nice little thing where they show that she has major league anxiety as she destroys everything she's got her hands on for the whole first half of the ballet.
As someone who has anxiety, it's something that if I'm really stressed out and I have a sheet of paper, that paper gets folded, and then you fold it again, and then eventually you folded that paper so many times that it starts tearing, and then you go, oh, this is a new activity, and then you start tearing the paper into tinier and tinier bits until you just have a shredded pile of confetti in front of you.
Now, in the third act here, I made a couple of notes in a row about how every shot with a face in it is just something from my nightmares, and I never want to see again.
I really hope you have nightmares tonight where it's
just like people's eyes like drift past the edge of their face, and you're just like, ah! It's really, really, really. I want so badly to be able to forgive the studio for just how fucking awful it is, but they made Cinderella at Disney decades prior, and it was fine.
They made Snow White in like
and that was also fine.
They made Snow White like right around the time this movie is set, like 10 years later, but like right around the same time.
There are so many 2D hand-drawn Disney movies that they clearly leaned on for inspiration on how to do the animation, and they just fucked everyone's face up.
Well,
front to back.
Don Bluth, the director, is like long-standing animator at Disney. Like when he wasn't directing,
he did like the hands or something. Like I don't know, maybe he did the dogs, and that's why there's such a good dog. But
James said I'm not giving him credit for this.
Not at all. Motherfucker never did a face in his life, and it's a fucking travesty. You look at him and they're just bad, dude. It's eyeballs that are too far apart, and then they're back together again, and then they're too far apart again, and then the mouths that go too far, and it's just... Ugh.
I also want to apologize because I think I've said Don Bloom a good like
Is it Don
10
Blum?
times. It's Don Bluth.
Bluth. Yeah, you have said it.
So I apologize because I suck. But Don Bluth. I think I said it right the first time because I was reading it and then I just kind of yada yada'd it in my head. But yeah, Don Bluth.
And now it's time for the third act betrayal. The third act betrayal. It happens in all the movies. It's trope. In which Dmitri does his best to intro Anastasia to the Empress, but the Empress is stamp her foot. No, I'm not having it. And it is revealed to Anastasia that Dmitri has just sort of been doing this as a con, and because he never explained anything about what he's doing to anyone, it's not immediately clear to her that he's had a change of heart and really is trying to reunite her with her family. And she thinks he's just doing it for the money, gets mad. They have a fight. She smacks the shit out of him in the theater and ducks out. Yes, America?
Carry on. I'll come back to this.
Okay. And Dmitri just throws a little tantrum like a little bitch. And then kidnaps the Empress, which is wild. And not something I expected to happen, so good on them for that. What the fuck, though, by the way?
She's like a whole royalty?
That is a whole member of royalty, and you straight up jacked her ride.
Like, you're gonna be arrested.
Maybe, it's Paris. Shit's weird. And they do a little nice Rolls Royce badge. It's really nice. And then the trouble with mirrors.
James talked an extensive amount of time. We had to pause it.
I paused the movie twice.
He had to talk an extensive amount of time. What's really funny is it started with him going, oh my god, the mirror is an actual mirror. Good on them. And then slowly deteriorated into madness as he picked apart every fucking reflection from that point on.
Well, it's because you never would see in movies of that style a mirror being used as a mirror. It's always a set piece that's like frosted over, or it's blue, and you don't get to see the reflection, and it's watercolored in it, so it's just like, yeah, there's just sort of a vague background that's reflected. But they straight up animate people moving in the mirror like they're moving in the movie. And that's super cool to see in this style of movie, because you can't think of something where you've seen it before. But then, if you look at it closely, which you probably won't do, but I did because I had to, in the sequence where Anastasia does talk to her grandmother and they have the conversation, it's in front of two mirrors. And both times, it's incorrect. It's not a true reflection. Because, the best way to describe it is, she's looking away from the mirror, but she's being reflected in the mirror. And so you see her face twice. And in her face where she's actually standing, her hair is parted on the left side of her head. But in the reflection, it's also parted on the left side of her head. And if it was a true reflection, it would show...
her bangs. It would be her bangs on that
Yeah,
side.
it would be the opposite. And so that's the first thing where I go, oh, that it's lazy. They just took her head and put it there again, which is, you don't want to do that. That someone who's looking for it will see it, and it's not good. But then they do it a second time You're not looking for it. Just shh. You're not looking for it. I'm looking for it. They do it again, but with both the grandmother and Anastasia. And they get the grandmother's head tilt correct, and it's both tilted in the correct direction, but Anastasia, once again, is sort of copy-pasted. And the hair's wrong, and it's flipped. And I was just like, you went to such lengths to animate her double, but you didn't look at it and go, oh, that's not how mirrors work. Damn it. It made me upset. Ugh. And there's still no explanation as to why she had amnesia. Now, what was your thing? You went on Wikipedia and you were reading. What's this whole thing?
So Don Bluth, not
yes,
Bloom.
Bluth.
One of the things that he is most known for animating, and this is gonna really put a
oh god, no,
is Fox and the Hound. He worked on Fox and the Hound.
Oh boy, he's so good at animals.
He didn't animate an animal in Fox
son of
and
a
the
bitch.
Hound. He animated several scenes of the character Widow Tweed.
No, he is an animator of humans. Fuck, shit, no. Why are these ones so bad?
He had a bunch of like creative differences with Disney basically and left.
Yeah, about like where eyes belong and how mouths should look and like maybe everyone should be a twig.
He went to go establish his own animation studio called Don Bluth Productions. With Gary Goldman, who's the co-director of this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
And John Pomeroy.
Okay.
And 9 other Disney animators all jumped ship.
Let a coup. Like Rasputin.
And then they did...
What else did they make? Other notably good faces?
Well, let me go back to his Disney work. So, because like I said, it was Widow Tweed was the #1, and I was like, oh, that's a person.
Yikes. Oh, man. I did so much shouting about it, and I'm still right. He did good when he was at Disney, but now he's on his own, and it's shit.
Oh, he did the Archie show, the animated Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Wow, he's like a huge animation veteran. The fuck happened when he went to Fox?
Well, here's the thing, though. He's clearly more comfortable doing animals, because the rest of his animation credits are, like, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Especially, he animated sequences of Robin Hood stealing gold from Prince John, rescuing the rabbit infant, and romancing Maid Marian near a waterfall. For Winnie the Pooh, he's known as animating Rabbit. And he worked on The Rescuers, Pete's Dragon.
Lots of non-people work.
Yeah, so it's like very clearly he's very comfortable
Dude's got animals down.
But he has done humans that don't
look so horrifying.
Yes.
Well, that's a shame.
But again, he wasn't an animator on this movie. He was a director. So
yeah, but that still means he gets to see it and have final say, and that's woof, buddy. Your quality control is bad.
Yeah, I also don't know how you could go from Disney and like have that level of quality and then
drop that far off, especially when you start your studio with a bunch of Disney animators.
Yeah, like that's the other thing is there were other Disney animators who probably animated people and they just didn't.
All right. Now, this whole third act, I had forgotten that Rasputin was also here.
I've watched this movie multiple times, and I legitimately forgot.
Totally forgot that Rasputin team rocketed away from Limbo and appeared in the real world. But at the time, another part of the movie was happening in which they're reunited, and Dmitri gets offered the 10 million ruble prize? The 10 million ruble reward for finding Anastasia. And I thought to myself, well, what the fuck is 10 million rubles? And I had to do a shitload of conversions and math because I could not, for the life of me, get a single calculator to tell me how much 10 million rubles was in 1926. But having done the math and taken the time to work it out, 10 million rubles in 1926 was around $6,660.
Which in the 20s was still a lot of money.
Yeah, and
like, what is that in today dollars? I can do
$111,000.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but we also should take into consideration that due to recent events, the ruble has sort of crashed.
Also, I think, and I'm going to say this blanket with no proof or doing any math, I feel like that's more money than what the people in Squid Games won.
Potentially. Also, just an aside that I thought of just now, there is a document that I looked at while I was doing this math that was a handwritten chart from 1930 that was the previous 10 years worth of conversion rates of a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say this is a fact, but on that chart, the Russian currency was not listed as a ruble. It was listed as something else. So take that little tidbit with a grain of salt. Maybe it was rubles in the 20s. Maybe it wasn't rubles in the 20s. I don't know. But the chart I looked at when I was Googling around listed the Russian currency as some other name. Or maybe they just had a different name for it back then. Maybe it's the same.
The Russian currency is called a ruble.
Yes, it is currently called a ruble.
But was it back then?
Was it in 1920? Anyways, so we're in the tail end of the movie here. Dmitri rejects the money, and he just wants to go back to Russia, which is fucking crazy. Like, okay, sure, your hero arc, you reject the money, that's fine, that's dandy, whatever. You want to go back to St. Petersburg? Wasn't your whole con to get the money and live in Paris because Russia sucked? What's the deal now? You're fucking abandoning that dream to go back to where it sucks in St. Petersburg? Doing whatever the fuck you were doing back then? Conning people into money? Like, this is such a weird move. Like, I can totally buy into, like, no, I don't want the money. I did what my good soul wanted to reunite her with you. That's fine. I don't want the money. Sure. But, like, dude, you're in Paris now. Just live in Paris. Your best buddy Vlad is set up. He's just going to be here. He's going to be here with his sweetie Sophie. Just, like, hang out. Get a job. Do something. Anything. What the fuck, dude? All right, go.
I have an answer to the ruble inquiry.
I'd love it.
It's
Hit me.
always been known as a ruble.
Okay.
But the only thing that has changed is in 1922, it was known as the Soviet ruble. Or ruble.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how you say that. It says ruble, but anyways. And then in the 1990s, it changed to the Imperial Russian ruble, but they've always, at least from 1922, which would have been before our movie.
Yep.
Has always been a ruble.
Who knows what the fuck I looked at then? Maybe $6,660 doesn't mean shit. Anyways, so Dimitri's gonna go back to Russia. We're having this extravagant party that Rasputin's gonna crash to kill Anastasia, and he like lures her out of the party with the dog. Because Puka basically just, like, runs up to Anastasia, finds her, and then fucks off, and she just follows him. And that's how she winds up in peril with Rasputin. And, of course, Dimitri's going to come back to save her. I said out loud that if Rasputin successfully kills Anastasia in this movie, I will forgive the movie all its sins. But he doesn't. He sucks and he's bad and he doesn't. So the movie is not without sin. It's a sham. A brief battle ensues where no one actually really fights except Dmitri does punch the shit out of Rasputin real hard. And then Anastasia breaks open the little chalice thing that houses all the little demon guys. And by doing that, it hits Rasputin with the fucking Ark of the Covenant blast, and it melts all his skin and shit, and then it radiates his bones, and then his bones turn to dust, and it all blows away in the wind, and it's really kind of gruesome if you think about it. Because, like, it kind of does look a little bit like how the guys die when they look at the Ark of the Covenant in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Kind of resembles how they die, where they sort of melt and then their bones just. So, it's creepy. Don't know if it is necessarily fit for the children's movie. And so then they're going to live happily ever after. She leaves a note for her grandmother that they'll always be together in Paris, and they're going to go elope. And so they fuck off to another boat. And once again, no one in this movie can be not in raggedy fucking clothes, as Dimitri is in the same clothes that he had that fight in, and he's just all scrapped up and shit. And I'm still not sure what the motivation for any of the events that occurred in the movie are in this children's movie about death. If I were to rate the movie out of 10, I would probably give it a 5. For being a first animated feature out of a studio's animation department, and having just a killer cast and tremendous voice acting. It's such a heinous thing to watch, because you just look at it and your eyes burn. Anytime a person is on screen and trying to talk, it's just like, no, I don't want to look. And the story itself is extremely contrived, and while it's not based in reality, there's not motivation for anything. And especially there's not context for there to be motivation. So it's a double-edged sword that the studio cut themselves to death on. And so it can't get points for having a good story, because what the fuck happened the whole time?
What would you rate the movie?
5.
Okay,
5 out of 10.
It's not bad.
No, it's way better than a lot of the movies we watch.
I'm gonna give credit where credit's due, because even though you made it way harder than it needed to be, but you did get all the math correct.
Yes! Go me!
Even with your chart. Like, the end numbers might be a little bit different, but
little bit odd.
what I did was I pulled up a conversion calculator of rubles to US dollars in 1926, and then
That's what I think. I got the same one as you did, but it wouldn't do the conversion for me, and so I had to take other means.
You just have to do it 2 different ways. So you have to look up what that was equal. So what the rubles were equal to in dollars, and then turn it into 1926. It's a fine. Anyways, your math was correct. It's about $6,000.
$6,000.
Our live audience voted our next movie. We got another tie for you, so you will have
2 movies straight, which is basically all of the month of December.
Yeah, so, or if you're listening to this in the future, whenever we get these episodes out.
What do we got? What's on
so
the docket?
it'll be Flushed Away.
Ha ha.
And then it'll be James and the Giant Peach, which I've been trying to get on this channel since I think it's conception, honestly.
Yeah, you've been trying to get James and the Giant Peach for over a year.
I took it off the vote for a while because it was just
no one wanted it. No one wanted that. Just you.
We have some new viewers that are live that tend to like Tim Burton, so I got some bonus chances at getting James and the Giant Peach on there, which I did. So James can finally watch another Tim Burton movie, which actually I've been trying to get a Tim Burton movie back on here for.
I'm just gonna bitch about Stripes the whole time.
Yeah,
because the last one you got on here was the rapiest movie.
Oh yeah, it was Beetlejuice.
There
are 3
bad.
Tim Burton movies on this fucking sheet, and I got one of them in. So
I'll say it with my 2 feet planted in the ground. Beetlejuice is fucking bad.
And if you want to hear more about that, you should watch our tier list episode,
or just re-listen to the Beetlejuice episode,
or both. Good night.
Why not both?
Good night and goodbye.
No, seriously, go listen to the Beetlejuice episode. You'll be like, oh my god, it was really that bad? And yes, it was!
It was one of those ones that I've watched with James back that I, like, really enjoyed as a child, and I just keep running into you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And I have a feeling James and the Giant Peach is going to be similar, because I haven't seen it in years.
Oh, it's gonna be so crass and crude.
And so, I hope not. This one's, like, an actual children's movie. Whereas Beetlejuice was definitely for adults. But I have a feeling this is gonna be one where I watch it back with James and go, oh, I don't remember that. I do remember James and the Giant Peach giving me like her like it stands out in my brain as one of the first movies that really gave me some like trauma images in my brain. That I'm not gonna say anything till we get to the episode, but the clouds, mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. I don't like it. That's all. I don't like the clouds, James.
Do you not like the clouds?
The clouds make me feel uncomfortable.
Do the clouds have like faces or penises or something?
You'll see.
It's just a cloud that's got a menacing aura. It's like, yeah.
Like, I can still see it, like, it's in my eyes.
Well, you have to suffer through some claymation rodents, baby. Woo!
Last year, one of the classes at Spark, that was their costume, was James and the Giant Peach.
Yikes.
Yeah.